What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sit Down with Sid Podcast. This is your host, Sid. Our guest today is the host and producer of the YouTube channel Best in Tesla, which he started in 2019 and today has more than 21 million views. On that channel, you can find him talking on Elon Musk, Tesla news, Tesla innovations, the electric vehicles, and all the great things they bring to the world, as well as renewable energy and sustainable living. Without further ado, all the way from Denmark, I present to you our guest, Lars Strandridder. Hi, Lars. Thanks for being a
Hi,
guest on our podcast.
thank you so much for having me, Sid. Thank you.
So, Lars, before we kind of get into the podcast, would you take a moment to give a brief intro about yourself to our audience so they know who you are?
Yeah, I'm a host of Best in Tesla channel that I started almost 4 years ago now. I'm running that channel by myself, so saying I'm the host, it's just me running that show. And yeah, started that 4 years ago because there was so much disinformation about electric vehicles and especially Tesla. So I wanted to help spread the real truth from my perspective anyway, about what is going on in the EV world and renewable energy, and try to help spread the world and accelerate the world to sustainable energy.
So great. So Lars, let me ask you. You just explained why did you started this channel, Best in Tesla, but how did the love for Tesla grew within you, and what prompted you, to start this channel and say, you know what, I have to stand by Elon Musk. I got to stand by his company, and I want to do things the right way and represent this company as a voice, as an influencer, especially in Denmark, which is one of the biggest uh, market for Tesla EVs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it actually started because when I bought my Tesla back in June of 2019, every party I went to, I didn't drink much because I had to give test drive to all the people I knew, and every party I went to was like, can we try your Tesla? Yeah, sure. And we went out and accelerating, and every time people had a lot of questions about electric vehicles. It was like, yeah, it's a nice car, but the battery dies after 100,000 kilometers. I'm like, no, it doesn't. So there was just so much misinformation. So I spent a lot of time talking to people about this, and then I had followed Tesla since 2015 or something like that. I can't remember the exact moment when I kind of realized Tesla was out there, but I can remember when I kind of thought, okay, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel about this, because that was after Q2 of 2019, where they had an earnings call, and there was a question asked by the people in the audience about what should we do about all this disinformation that is being spread about EVs. And the guy there had an example of some of his friends that he explained it to. And Elon and Drew Bagolino said that what you're doing is what we can do. We don't know what more to do about it. So, but spreading the word about it, mouth by mouth or person to person, is the thing you can do. And I thought, that's what I'm doing. And then I watched the two guys, Zach and Jesse from Now You Know channel.
Okay.
And they had a talk about this earnings call, and they said, but that's what we're doing, and you can do that as well. And I was like, yeah, sure, maybe I can do that. and then I started my YouTube channel because of that, and because of Tesla said that's the best way to help us. And so, okay, I will love to help you guys to accelerate the world to a sustainable future and teach people about electric vehicles.
That's amazing. Now talking about Elon Musk, what do you think? What are your views on him as an entrepreneur, as a visionary? And give me your views on him. Everyone has their own views. Uh, he's one of the most, as you know, he's the most followed up guy in Twitter, and like everything blows up around him. So give me your take on his personality and what you think of him.
Yeah. I think Elon might be one of the most misunderstood persons on the planet. Also because he's a billionaire, and everything he does is very disruptive to many big industries like oil and big auto and energy and so on. So there's going to be a lot of people, and there have been a lot of people that don't want to see him succeed. So there's also spread a lot of false information about Elon Musk himself and not just Tesla and electric vehicles. But I have watched, I don't know, maybe everything Elon Musk has ever had of interviews and events and so on. And I think if people really watched and the interviews he does and stuff like that, instead of just reading the headlines and the article made by mainstream media, because they also always have an agenda, their own agenda behind it all. But Elon usually just wants to do the right thing. I think that's the most important thing to understand about Elon. And what I like about Elon is that he will sacrifice everything for the right thing. And I think Elon is showing that by, he's not a typical billionaire with big yachts like Jeff Bezos or all the other billionaires. He lives on the couch at friends most of the time because he's all over the place, and he doesn't really own anything like big value or big house or anything. He's in it for the mission to accelerate the world to a sustainable future and get consciousness spread out among the stars with his SpaceX adventure. So I think he's an amazing entrepreneur and person, and he's probably also very misunderstood because the person he is, that he's not your typical CEO. He will not sit there in a suit and talk very correctly and be a very good politician. He will say things the way they are, and he will have fun and he will goof around, and I like that. But that is not something that is always well seen in the circles of CEOs and some of the most prestigious people in the world. But I think he has also, the track record to show that he's not just a guy goofing around. They just launched their Starship today, actually, that blew up in the sky, but they did get it off the ground. And I think SpaceX is a good testimony to what Elon is able to do as an entrepreneur, because nobody is even close to what they're doing yet. They sent like 80% of all cargo to space. Not even the Russian, the Chinese, the US government. Nobody is catching up to SpaceX. And even though we have Jeff Bezos space company and many others, they don't really do much yet. And Tesla has over 120 flights. I can't count them anymore, but so many flights. So I think that's a real testimony to Tesla. And I think that was when they sent astronauts to the International Space Station for the first time. That was also at the same time when Tesla got into the S&P 500. But I think that just accumulated, and when the stock shot up in the air, I think that was accumulation of people seeing, okay, Elon is pretty legit. He knows stuff. He got stuff done. So I think that success of SpaceX also rubbed off on Tesla as well. So I think he's a person that just want to do the right thing, but he doesn't always think before he speaks. He just speaks his mind, and that is not always a good thing on social media and in the politician arena. But that's Elon, and I like it. I think it's a fresh look in the billionaire class of people.
It's funny you brought that up, because I was going to actually ask you, do you think he's juvenile? Because all the rift that he causes on Twitter, going against Putin, he reminds me actually of Donald Trump, who is very patriotic, who loves his country, who wants to do the right things, but he is his own worst enemy when he speaks, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you now. I wanted to ask you about Elon's purchase of Twitter, since it caused a lot of controversy, and I mean Tesla stock almost went 70% down. In total, he sold around $22.9 billion of stocks, which was in 4 splits. And a lot of shareholders, they actually voiced their opinions with a concern, criticizing him in the media that he has been neglecting Tesla. What do you think about that? Do you think it's the right move for him to go towards freedom of speech and neglecting Tesla? Or do you think he's able to handle these projects simultaneously in a successful way?
Well, yes, I think he's able to handle it. I don't think he's neglecting Tesla. And I think the new record every quarter is also speaking about that. They did a new record in Q4 and they did a new record in unit sales in Q1. So Tesla is not Elon Musk. He's not a one-man army. He has a very good team, and I think they showed that on Investor Day as well. They had the whole um, leader team on stage there and really showing the world Tesla is not Elon Musk and Elon Musk is not Tesla. It would be bad if he was not there, but they have some really, really brilliant minds inside Tesla that are running things for him. So I still think it's a good thing he bought Twitter. Could it be handled better? Yes, for sure. There was a lot of controversy about it, and he wanted to buy it and he wanted to get out of it, but they forced him to buy it, and a lot of mess. But we have also seen kind of what a mess Twitter was behind the scenes after he kind of opened it up and sent out some of all these files and so on. So it was kind of a mess. And I think it's already we see where this could go with Twitter, with the community notes, where Reuters sent an article out about Tesla missing Q1 numbers and stuff like that, even though they did beat expectations of deliveries. And they had to correct that because as they also sent out a tweet, of course, about it, about their article, but it quickly became, got a community note and it showed some of the real numbers in the community note. So they had to change it and come up with the truth, actually. So I think we can already see that what is Elon is aiming for. And I think to have a place like Twitter where you have freedom of speech, but I'm more interested in the truth about things. So because mainstream media and usually, you know, especially in the US, they are very biased, one party or another, and who pays their bills and so on, where Twitter could be a very neutral ground and the truth could come out there because of community notes and so on. And what he wants to build with the whole X.com and getting this to be the everything app that you can go on Twitter and buy a Tesla, you even pay it on Twitter with a new payment system that Elon also want to do. He has wanted to do that since, you know, the PayPal times, but PayPal only wanted to do person-to-person transactions. So I think Elon has a vision about a new way of a payment system. So I think it's going to be an adventure. And I think in 5 years' time, we're going to look back and say, yeah, that was probably a good thing he bought that. I am a long-term investor in Tesla. So for me, all this noise about, oh, he spent $44 billion or whatever on Twitter, to me, that is completely irrelevant when we look at the long term.
So when you talk about long term, are you talking about 5 to 7 years from now? Because I do come across a lot of comments like yourself and a lot of long-term investors who are like, you know what? We don't care if the earnings didn't come out good. We don't care if they bash him, you know? So what is, when you talk about long term, are you looking at like 2030, past 2030? What's your time frame?
At least 2030. I'm not gonna do anything before 2030, and I'm gonna look at that at that point. But I think Tesla could be the company, once in a lifetime company, to come along if they really can crack the code of AI and robotics and so on as well. Then the limits, we don't even know what the limits could be for a company like that. So yeah, from my perspective as a long-term investor, I don't care anything about until 2030. And if Tesla is right and they can get close to 20 million vehicles and they have full self-driving and stuff like that, you know, $44 billion is going to be like a drop in the ocean compared to what Tesla is able to do and unlock with full self-driving and AI and robotics.
So now Tesla, you know, people think it's a car company, but it's more than a car company. You know, they're in energy. I mean, yesterday at the earnings call, which we'll discuss later, you know, they had one of the best ramping seasons in terms of energy. They're planning on robotaxi, Optimus, you know, working on Megapacks, etc. So do you think, so from your understanding, what percentage do you think the car business of Tesla allocates to the overall market share and the long-term projection that you have in your mind?
How big the market share is going to be?
Yeah, in terms of car business. So for example, if Tesla is unable to produce 20 million cars, right? but they are able to ramp up the robotaxi, Optimus, and go on different silos. Do
Yeah,
you still think, I'm just trying to understand how relevant it is, because now we're talking long term, we
yeah.
are not talking short or midterm. So from your understanding, being a long-term investor, how significant is the car business to the long-term, uh, investment part?
Well, if we're talking long term, like 2030,
Right.
this period here, the auto business is going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
As Elon also have said, if they can unlock this full self-driving, that I think they are pretty close on doing when we see the
Mm-hmm.
full self-driving beta version 11 out now, version 11.4 is out now, and see what it is able to do is just mind-blowing in my opinion. And people don't really see that if you're not in the Tesla community, kind of, because people only watch what Tesla can do, what my Tesla in the garage can do, because I don't have the beta version. But if they see what the beta version can do, I think people's mind will be blown, and we're really close. And they're getting data so quickly right now with all the beta testers they are having. So I think they're going to solve it. And as Elon have said, that's going to unlock maybe the biggest value of any company ever. Until AI comes along.
Right.
But that is probably going to be the biggest value asset ever unlocked by any company. So that is going to be absolutely huge and going to dwarf their storage and energy business until that also get very, very big. But they still have a lot of ramping to do. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
ramp it up faster now than what the car business can do, because it's a simpler product, and they are gonna build many of these mega pack factories that we have seen
Right.
them implement last year at Lathrop, and also they have announced the Shanghai factory. And if we look at the amount of that gigawatt hours they are able to produce compared to the whole industry of storage, it is insane what Tesla is doing, even though it, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't sound much like 40 gigawatt hours. We are so used to talking big numbers when it comes to Tesla. But compared to the industry, this is humongous. So that will grow to be a big part. But as soon as Tesla solve the full self-driving, that is going to be the moneymaker for Tesla. I think the market share for Tesla could be high, and we just had the earnings call where they also said that they're pushing for growth, so they don't really care about too much. They try to do it healthy
Right.
growth, of course, and they still have 21% automotive gross margin, so they're still doing very, very good, best in the industry. But they are willing to sacrifice that short-term profits if they have to gain and still grow as fast and as aggressive as they can. And I think they see a very good opportunity right now, as we see Ford and GM are really struggling to making EVs. We know Ford is losing $22,000 on every EV they sell. So they are in huge trouble right now. And Tesla is seeing this and have the pricing power to just say, okay, we're going to drop it $3,000 more and see what happened in the US, where it's already the best-selling passenger car. In Europe, it's already the best-selling car of any kind. So I think Tesla's market share could become really, really high, because the old legacy automakers are really not moving fast. And I think if we look at the EV adoption curve and the fall of the ICE sales
Mm-hmm.
and the rise of the plug-in sales, I made a model where I can see it's hard to even slow it down so you don't end up at 50% of 2030. That's almost impossible by now to slow it that much down. You have to go down to only 50% growth every year, but we're growing like 100% or 50% every year with the plug-in market. So I can't see this going beyond 2030, in my opinion.
Right.
And Tesla want to grab 20 million vehicles. If they grab 17 million, it doesn't really matter. It's still going to be a huge amount, and it's going to be from some of the old guys. Somebody have to give Tesla this market share. And we see them rise in market share all the time, and they are having 2 new factories ramp up, and they showed their next factory, and they are actually calling the next vehicle the robotaxi, because they know they are so close in solving this. And then demand doesn't really matter anymore when they can just print as many cars as they want to and just put them on the streets as robotaxis all over the world. It's all, of course, delayed by regulatory approval, but
Right.
they are not really demand constrained anymore when it comes to that vehicle, when that's solved. So that's why I see, until that's solved, energy is going to be a big part of Tesla's business and all the other parts. But I think in this decade, their automotive business is still going to be the big one, especially when they solve full self-driving, that's going to be a huge money printer for Tesla.
Well said. I completely agree with all the points you mentioned here. I want to talk about Tesla in Europe. As you mentioned, Model Y is the best-selling car, best-selling EV, and in fact, I was surprised. Tesla was Denmark's best-selling car in Q1 of 2023, overtaking Peugeot, Volkswagen, and Toyota. I mean, you are in Denmark. So do
Yeah.
you see a lot of Tesla Model Ys out there?
Yes, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I can't go for a drive and not see a Tesla. It's that bad or that good. Yeah, there's Teslas all over the place. And yeah, in March they sold. Not only was it the best-selling vehicle in March, it was the best-selling car model ever in the history of Denmark. There has never been a model that
Wow.
sold this much as the Tesla Model Y did, and it's not by a little. They sold like 3,500 or 3,000. Yeah, I think it was 3,500 units just in March, and the second best in the history of the car industry in Denmark was the Ford Kuga that sold 1,300, 1,800 or
Oh,
something like that.
wow.
So it's
That's a
like
big difference.
twice the amount of the next best-selling vehicle ever. So they really are jumping in here, and EV adoption here in Europe and especially in Scandinavia where I live is really taking off. And in Q1 it was like,
Why is that, Lars? I'm curious to know why is that? Why is it, as you said, that it's kind of ramping up? What do you think is about Tesla and EV that attracts the market like yourself, where you are?
yeah, I think Scandinavia and many places in Europe, well-developed countries, they want to do the good choice of getting green, and EVs are one of those choices that is a good choice to not pollute the air in our cities. And so I think by nature we are very green-thinking people in Northern Europe.
Right.
And I also think that Tesla has, with this price cut, because have met many people that talk about, yeah, Tesla is great, but it's a very expensive car. People don't want to spend that much on a car. It's a very expensive car here in Denmark, or was anyway.
Right.
But now they made these price cuts, and everybody is kind of looking for an EV, but some have 12 months of wait time, or more.
Really?
The Skoda Enyaq in Germany has like 24 months of 2 years wait time. So it's like insane because of the EV demand is here, and the Europeans are ready to buy them. But the demand, the demand is here, but the supply is not here for the other automakers. But Tesla is. Tesla can deliver within a couple of months here in Europe after the Berlin factory came online. So I think that the combination that EVs are getting some adoption and people are getting used to the fact that, okay, EVs are not so this dangerous thing that you're going to be stuck on the highway and you can't go anywhere, and range anxiety doesn't really exist, especially with a Tesla, because they have their own charging network. And here in Europe, I have been on road trips all over Europe and have no problems because my Tesla can show me where to drive and how to charge and when to charge and how for long to charge. I don't even think. I think it's easier than having a nice car than to have a Tesla, because I don't even think about charging. The car does that for me. So I think people starting to realize all of these points about Tesla, and then suddenly they drop the price, so you can choose an Skoda Enyaq or a Tesla. It's the same price, maybe even cheaper. And there's so many benefits with the Tesla compared to a Skoda Enyaq or an ID.4 or whatever model you pretty much want to choose here. And suddenly they become some of the cheapest model you can get, because EVs are still the expensive car. We don't have we have affordable EVs here in Europe, but they also cheap cars. They're not good cars. They're like small range, small battery, slow charging and stuff like that, like the Dacia Spring here in Europe. Doesn't cost much, very affordable car, but doesn't go far. It's like your second car you would have in a family. But like the real car that is supposed to take over from your normal daily family car, the Model Y is just a perfect car here in Europe. SUV is very popular, and it is, you don't really go on compromise with the Model Y, and now it is suddenly a very good price as well. So I think that's why it has taken off like wildfire here in Europe.
So is it correct for me to say that this kind of constitutes towards the electric EV revolution that you talk about on your channel? Because you said people in your country, you want to go more green, right? The
Yeah.
reason I brought that up because last week in the US, the current administration, they actually require a nationwide transition to EVs by 2050, Uh, so they are actually kind of saying, you know what, in the next 2 decades or so, all you will see is EV on the road, no more ICE cars, right? So let me ask you, Lars, now, does the government on your end support the EV cause? I mean, I don't know that much the government factors. Do you want to talk about that? Is that something you can shed some light on it? Or
Yeah, the government have been not putting as much taxes on the EVs as they do on ICE cars to try
okay,
to make it, but it's kind of going away now. And we also see in England they have some EV incentive, but they have taken them all away because EV sells themselves. They don't need to spend that money on EVs. The growth of EVs there is like crazy, and we see it in Norway. They had an incentive, but they did it the other way around. They put more taxes on the ICE cars, so they
okay,
got very expensive. That's why everybody bought an EV. So there are help from the government, but I don't think it's needed anymore. Um, and very soon, with the Chinese coming with affordable EVs, and especially Tesla's next generation vehicle coming out of the Mexico factory in 1.5 years, starting in 2025, probably at real volume, that's going to be, then ICE car is dead by then, because people don't like, when I talk to my friends and people I meet, everybody's like, yeah, our next car is going to be an EV, or maybe I wait a year or two, but they're not going to buy a new ICE car until then, because that doesn't make sense. They're going to drop out of the sky in value. So there is this kind of pinned up demand, in my opinion, about EVs. And we also see the pinned up demand when in the Skoda Enyaq has 2-year waiting list in Germany. It's insane. So there is a big demand for EVs here. But I think when the next generation EVs are going to come, and we can see BYD and their Seal, a little tiny hatchback for $11,000 in China, it's going to cost more in Europe, of course, but still, the small hatchback kind of thing is very popular in Europe as well. There is the big SUVs, and then there is the small hatchback. That's kind of a big thing in Europe, and I think that is going to be the one that's going to break ice for sure, because Tesla can make that for half the cost that it cost them to make a Tesla Model 3 today. So, $25,000 for a Tesla, a good EV, good range, good
can't go
charging
wrong with
speed,
that.
and great software, perfect safety, and will be able to have full self-driving at some point, if driver assist system anyway. So I think that's going to be a tremendous value for money you can get on these cars. It will not at that point make any sense to buy an ICE car that is more expensive to run. The true cost of ownership is much, much more, because you can see the Model Y right now. It is pretty much impossible to find anything equivalent that has the specs of an Model Y with the
Right.
acceleration and the roomy 700 liters trunk space and all that good stuff, but also the specs and the performance and so on at that price point. Is pretty much price parity, is actually cheaper. The Model Y in the US, including tax incentive, is
Right.
less than $40,000, and the average
Yes.
car in the US is $49,000. So it's cheaper, almost $10,000 cheaper than the average car in the US. That's insane, if you ask me. So I think when the next generation of EVs that's more affordable going to come, ICE is just going to die. So I don't think we have until, I don't care about all the politics about 2040 or 50. It's
Right.
nice that they have some goals, and we need to get there to get to zero emission and all that stuff. But the EVs themselves, especially in Europe and China, they're going to be long done before that is going to take action. So, yeah.
Lars, what I'm seeing is I don't see that much demand in United States for EVs. That is why, if you notice, the current inventory level of EVs, especially Tesla, is going up because, and yesterday, day before yesterday, this was the sixth price cut that Tesla did on Model Y and another model of theirs. So I feel, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I do see some kind of hesitance from the population in the United States, where we are, towards transitioning into EVs, right? Like you said, I mean, China, they are killing it, right?
Yeah.
Europe, as you said, the government doesn't even want to give any incentive because the demand is already insane, right?
Yeah.
Here is the other way around, you know? So why do you think is that? Do you think is that the people's perception on EVs delayed on in United States? Or do you think, I mean, also the macro factors, the fear of recession,
Yeah.
plays a major role. What are your views on what do you see that I don't see?
Well, I think, yeah, the US is, in my opinion, just behind
Right.
because the whole industry didn't want to do this. They didn't want to go to electric vehicles. Ford, GM didn't want to do it. We have to go only back 3 years, 2020, and Ford and GM thought they should make about 150,000 EVs in 2025. So it's like this has been a
Wow.
big wake up call for the OEMs over there. So it's pretty much been Tesla doing this in the US. So we're still waiting for the other guys, even though GM has their Bolt EV at a very affordable price. They don't
Right.
make as many EVs as they're. I think the demand is there, but I also think there is the recession thing, and I also think it's a culture thing. In the US, you like your pickup trucks, and
Right.
so and we don't really have pickup trucks here in Europe. Pretty much, there is pickup trucks, but it's not like a big thing where we
Hmm.
use a tow hitch and a trailer instead.
Right.
Here in Europe, it's a very different kind of culture of the way we use cars. So I think there is kind of a culture thing in the US that has to get used to this and a little behind Europe and China on that point. But eventually, if especially in a couple of years, when they're going to come up with the next generation vehicle, you have to be financially insane if you're going to buy an ICE vehicle when the sticker price of an EV is better.
Right.
The
Right.
overall cost is better, the performance is better, the safety is better, and most people can charge at home anyway. So there's not this charging dilemma or fear of range anxiety, especially as the range also go up and more charges is going to be come up. Tesla is really aggressive on that as well, also in the US, and opening up the charges and the next generation charges that can charge even faster. So I think in a couple of years, everybody's going to see it. And we have also seen surveys where 40 or 50% saying, yeah, their next vehicle could be an EV, even in the US. So I actually think there is a demand, and especially when Tesla is going to show, when all these Tesla Model Y is going to be out there, is one of the best-selling cars in the US right now. There's going to be a lot of people talking about their Tesla and how well it drives and how easy it is owning it and operating it and how cheap it is to operate and how you can just charge at home. You don't have to go to a gas station anymore. It's only on road trips, and all of these benefits that makes an EV much more convenient, in my opinion, and also the right choice when it comes to not polluting the air in our cities. And I think maybe the mentality here in Europe is more like that's a big piece of the puzzle because
Right.
why we buy EVs, and maybe that is lacking a bit in the US. I'm not sure about that, but I think eventually the US will be there as well. And I think even if we are hitting a recession and they have to cut prices, I think Tesla would do that because there is more people that's going to hold back on buying a big expensive car. But if they lower the price, $5,000, their addressable market they are in is going to grow exponentially. So
Hmm.
even though many people are holding back, some people are not really holding back, and if they can get to a bigger addressable market, more people will still buy their cars. So I think that's what they're doing right now. They're just lowering the price to keep up the demand with the production ramp they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then what do you think about, I mean, all these competitors here, Toyota, Volkswagen, other companies, big companies, they're investing billions of dollars now. And they
Mm.
actually even stated a couple of weeks ago, it was actually a couple of days ago in the article where they said that what Elon has done with the EVs is kind of impossible for us to mimic
Yeah.
because, first of all, to make it profitable is a big deal, right? Second off, technology that Tesla has, I think the short and midterm investors, they don't understand the fundamentals on the technology side. That's my opinion. I might be wrong. I might be right. I don't know. What do you think it is? I mean, do you think, I mean, from technology point of view, I think Tesla is untouchable, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Any
they
other
have.
thing that you can add to it?
Yeah, they definitely have a technology advantage that no one else has. And we have to remember Tesla is pretty much the first company in the US to start a car company that hasn't gone bankrupt. And Lucid and Rivian are there, but they're still losing billions of dollars every quarter.
Yes,
So they're
yes.
not home safe yet. They make great EVs, the Rivian R1T and the Lucid Air, amazing vehicles, but they actually seeing a bit of demand problem in my opinion for the Lucid anyway, because that's such a niche market,
Right.
and they have to make price cuts on a luxury vehicle like that, and Tesla has a Plaid Model S that's like $40,000 cheaper or something like that. So I think they have trouble, especially when it comes to technology, and I think we're seeing this. The greatest example I think is China, because
Mm-hmm.
they are very tech savvy people. They love technology and it has to be high tech and shiny and pling pling and all that good stuff. And I think many legacy automakers, especially here in Europe, have completely missed the mark on that. And someone like Volkswagen that has made the ID.3 and ID.4 and so on, they're decent electric cars, but they are just electric cars. They are really not smartphones on wheels as Tesla has made it.
Right.
Tesla has been able to make over-the-air updates since 2012. So for more than a decade, Tesla has been able to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
Volkswagen is still struggling. And even though they say they can do over-the-air updates, like the Jaguar I-Pace that came out in 2018 could do over-the-air updates, and it got 2 updates pretty quickly, fixing some bugs and stuff like that. But then in the last 2-3 years, it has got nothing. So sure, it can make updates, but if you don't get any updates, does it really matter? And when we have seen there has been a software issue with Jaguar or Porsche or whatever,
Right.
they can't really fix like deep fundamental things in the car with a software update. They always have to recall it, even though it's software issues. So I really think this shows how much ahead Tesla is on this whole. They have made the computer on wheels, and the others has mostly just made an electric car and thought that was what people wanted. And we could see it in the beginning with the Audi e-tron was just, and many are still building, the car that can be made in 3 different models: an ICE version, a diesel version, a plug-in hybrid, and an electric vehicle. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very complicated system they have set up, and they are not going to get the full benefits of making an EV until they just make pure EV products, like Volkswagen MEB platform. But I don't think they are profitable yet, and Tesla just has such a big lead in this. But I really think also the whole production is probably the least understood thing about Tesla, and how they innovate every single day. It's like you have the ability to spend Tesla's money if you work at Tesla, even in the production line, and say, oh, I have an
Mm-hmm.
idea. Let's do this. That will speed up the things. And they have AI controlling their factories, and they have this automated testing, so they can go out and test it straight away and say, does this make the car better, or does this make the production faster, or does this make it cheaper? Yes, it does. Good, we're going to implement it. We don't even have to ask a manager or Elon Musk or anybody. They just
Right.
do it. And I think this is not understood by the mainstream media, or any the normal people that don't nerd into these things, the
Right.
production thing. And I think that's what also the OEMs are talking about when they say they cannot replicate what Tesla is doing, because Tesla has come over this big hurdle of going bankrupt as an automaker and are
Right.
home safe now. Lucid and Rivian and all the other EV startups still have to get over that hurdle before they are home safe. But Volkswagen, Toyota, GM, Ford, and all the other guys still have their ICE business they have to cater to as well. And that is really, really difficult. I feel sorry for them, because it's really difficult what they have to do, because they have to
Mm-hmm.
scale up a business they are losing money on, and their ICE business is dropping off a cliff in sales and volumes, and definitely going to be over the next couple of years. So their profitable business we have always been talking about, well, they can just get the money back on their ICE vehicles. Well, that is going to change very dramatically over the next 2, 3, 4 years. they're not going to have that profitability yet. And if they're not profitable on the EV business yet at that point, because of they are missing some scale and can replicate what Tesla is doing, because the technology in production is so difficult. Even Toyota has opened up and ripped apart the Model Y and said that was a art of work, and they are kind of known for their agile production line, and they have invented all that. But they looked at the Model Y that's 2 years old and said, that's what we're trying to mimic now. That is what we want to do to get to profitability, because their first battery electric vehicle, the BZ4X, was kind of a big flop, and they could see they could never produce this profitably.
Right.
So they don't want to ramp that up because it's going to lose the money. So they have to start from scratch once again here in 2023. So I think they're going to probably be some of the biggest loser in this game, because they have to mimic Tesla, and they want to mimic Tesla for 2 years ago, where Tesla's already revealed the next generation platform that's going to cut cost in half, and the others haven't even caught up with Tesla's 5 or 6 years old models on production and cost. So I think the whole scale and production of Tesla's technology, I think that's the most misunderstood part of the whole puzzle, because Tesla has thought scale into the whole equation and the others have not.
That's absolutely correct. What do you think about the Model 2, which is the $25,000 compact car, and Cybertruck? Let's talk about Cybertruck first, because we heard on the earnings call yesterday that Elon plans to launch that towards the end of Q3, the deliveries. I mean, they have over 1.5 million reservations for Tesla Cybertruck. And correct me if I'm wrong, Elon said that the demand is outpacing the production in terms of Cybertruck. What do you think the Cybertruck will do to the EV business that no one has ever done?
I think the Cybertruck is really going to hurt someone like Ford and GM, because even though people have been talking about, but Ford beat Tesla to the electric pickup truck. Yes, but they sold 15,000 in all of 2022. It's irrelevant yet, and they're still losing money on them. So they are ramping up so slow that I think the Cybertruck is really going to come in, because pickup trucks is such a big thing in the US.
Right. Yes.
So that is because we have seen how fast Tesla can ramp up. The Berlin factory is already producing more Model Ys in a week.
5,000, if I'm correct.
5,000
something like that. Yes.
Yeah. And, the Mark E, Ford's a great electric vehicle, but they have been producing that for almost 2.5 years, and they are not at that run rate. That is their monthly run rate.
Wow.
So they have shown us with the production ramp so far that they're not able to really scale up really fast. Either they don't want to because they lose money, or they're not able to. I don't know which, because I think also it's because of the supply chain, but that's just speculation, of course. But they went, like I said, 3 years ago, they thought they should make 150 or 160,000 vehicles in 2025. And now they want to do 2 million. You don't just, you can write that as your target, and that's great.
Right.
But if you haven't contacted, the mining companies, the refining companies, the battery companies, and even if you contact the battery companies and say, we want to order a 100-fold of what we have ordered with you so far. Okay, that's great. And they're going to contact the mine and say, yeah, we want to order 100-fold of what we have made so far. We're running out of materials here, guys. You can buy it on paper, but we still have to need the materials. And that's where Tesla has also gone the extra mile. They have dozens of long-term contract with mining companies and refining companies and all the big battery companies. So like the world's biggest battery manufacturer, CATL, Tesla is their biggest client. So every time they come up with a new technology in battery, we all know who's going to get the best deal there, because Tesla is ordering. They will buy as many batteries as they can sell them. So I think the Cybertruck is going to, because it's if you think about the specs you get, we don't know the price anymore, but they say 40,000, but let's say 45,000.
They actually mentioned here 45,000 a couple of days ago. It was published on Tesla. After the price cut, they are looking at around $45,000, which actually is very cheap compared to a pickup truck. And But my only concern is the only problem I see in United States, I can only speak for US, is the aesthetic parts of the
Mm.
Cybertruck, the look of it. Uh, to me, it kind of reminds me of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Total Recall when he goes to Mars in the taxi. So I don't know how well it will be perceived from the audience in the United States in terms of looks and aesthetics,
Yeah.
right? Um, what do you think on your end in Europe? Are you guys excited, or do you guys talk about it, and do you like the look, or give me some take on this?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. And, the pre-orders kind of speak for themselves. It's the most pre-ordered car in history. So sure, it
Right,
looks weird compared to anything else out there. It looks so unique that it doesn't even have Tesla's logo on it. It doesn't even need that because everybody knows that's a Cybertruck. But if a
right,
GM Silverado or a F-150 Lightning comes down the road, or a Rivian R1T, it's going to be difficult to see which car it is. So if you want to stand out, which people like to do, so I think the people that want to stand out will get the Cybertruck. But I also think when it comes to value for money, this might be until the next Model 2 or whatever it's going to be called, but this might be, when it comes out this year, might be the best value for money on an EV you can get on the planet. Like $45,000 for this huge big beast with huge trunk, and you can get one. We don't know the price, but get one with 500 miles of range. So
right,
this is going to be a huge deal in the utility companies, because they need to tow stuff, and we know EVs drop a lot in towing. But if you have 500 miles of range, I think most companies that tow stuff around the cities is going to be just fine.
right,
And we know it's going to be able to charge very fast. We don't know how fast yet, but Elon said plus 250, and we know they are making these next generation chargers that can charge really, really fast. So I think a car that can charge, let's say, 600 kilowatts in an hour, or
right,
600 kilowatt of speed, charging speed, and have 500 miles of range for maybe $70,000, you will not find anything in that terms. And it doesn't dent, it doesn't rust. So for a utility company that can throw brakes at this one, and it doesn't really matter, I think it's going to be a huge, huge seller, because they don't care, the companies,
right,
how it looks. Maybe they do, because people are going to watch it going down the street, and you have your name on the side of it. Oh, look, a Cybertruck, and it says BestInTESLA on the side of it. Oh, awesome. So that's going to be a big commercial sign driving down the streets, and people not going to turn their head when they see an F-150 Lightning. It looks like an F-150, and they all over the place. So I
right,
don't think that's really going to turn heads, but the Cybertruck will. So as a commercial company, I think it's going to be the best value for money you can get, and pretty much any car, I think, because it's going to be such a long range, a very affordable price, fast charging. It doesn't dent, doesn't run. The battery's going to last for 1,000,000 or 2 miles. um, and the
that is
maintenance.
insane what you just said. A battery lasting, for example, for that many miles. It's just
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, because it's going to be the 4680 cells they're going to put in this one, so we know they are ramping this one up, and it's going to be the new battery they're going to have in this car. So it's going to be able to charge much faster, not just because of the new fast chargers, but also because of the battery they're going to have in them. So the things this car is going to be able to do, I think, nobody knows yet. I think this is going to be an absolutely beast. And as Elon just said at the earnings call, it's going to be once in a lifetime vehicle. And I think commercial companies that are going to want pickup trucks, it's going to be the best price. They don't care how it looks. They're going to put it into a spreadsheet and say, oh man, we're going to save a lot of money if we get a Tesla Cybertruck. Let's do that. It has a bigger trunk than F-150 Lightning, than a Silverado, or all the other pickup trucks. It can tow more. It can load more. It can go faster and further, and it's a fun car to drive, and it has the longest range and the fastest charging speed, and doesn't dent, doesn't rust, and it has the new battery that's going to last for the lifetime of the truck, if the truck ever dies, because it's made of stainless steel. So I think it's going to be absolutely huge for the companies, and I think many people are going to want it because it is special, it is unique. this is going to look great on Instagram, and we live in this,
Right.
we live in a social media world right now that everybody want to post something, and it's already been in rap videos and stuff like that because it is unique looking. You're not going to pull up in your F50 Lightning and look cool compared to a Cybertruck. It's going to look normal and boring compared to a Cybertruck. So I think people will get used to it, but it's going to be such a good car that people don't care how it looks.
I'm so curious to actually see what the perception is about this truck.
Yeah.
What do you think about Model 2, which is the $25,000 compact car? Now, from my understanding, uh, being a marketer myself, I personally feel if Tesla is able to hone into the middle class, which constitutes most of the population, right?
Yeah.
For a $25,000, I think Tesla will hit a home run. And once again, I'm talking about United States. I don't know the Europe market. I don't know the China market. Because also, we are talking about the Ford F-150, the truck. Not everybody wants to drive a truck, you know.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel women personally, they are more attracted towards a car than a truck. Once again, this is just my perception. What I have seen around. So I personally feel the compact car will seal the deal on Tesla. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is going to be the car that gonna put all the doubts about Tesla to rest, because people have already said that the Model Y cannot sell as much as it's doing. It's going to be close to 1 million. It's probably going to be the best-selling car this year, and it's competing for that title against the Golf or the Peugeot, the Toyota Corolla or the Toyota Camry, much cheaper cars. So Tesla has already shown, because they focus on simplicity, one
Right.
model, full speed ahead, few colors, not very complicated, and they can get the massive scale of economy because of that, where the others want to complicate things and make 30 different EVs, and they are not going to get the economy of scale as Tesla does, because they only have a very few models. And now they're going to come out with a model. I don't know how it's going to look. I think that's going to be a surprise as well.
Right.
And why they don't want to reveal it now, because I think it's going to be a special car, as
Right.
Tom Su also said after the Investor Day. He said where he was asked about will it have paint, he said paint is expensive. So we don't know, no confirmation, but maybe we're going to have something really unique in a car as well. But it, in my opinion, doesn't really matter, because this is kind of the car that people have been screaming about for a long time, that we want an affordable EV. Tesla is not an affordable EV. Yes, the affordable EV is coming, but we have to get the price down. But that is exactly what Tesla has done. That they showed us on Investor Day. They spent 3 hours talking about how they cut cost on every single aspect of their business, and how they have cut cost in production by 50%, and can reduce the footprint of the factory by almost 50% as well. Right. And then they show us they're going to build a factory that is almost twice the size of the Texas factory. So this factory is going to be able to build millions of vehicles. So I really think this is going to be the car that's going to rule the world for a couple of years. I think Chinese are going to come in and have a say as well, but I think Ford, GM, Volkswagen, all the Germans, I think they're going to have a tough time, because even Volkswagen have been out saying they're going to focus more on luxury vehicles and stuff like that, because they can see it is so difficult earning money on these EVs right now for them.
Right.
Tesla, but for them. So they have a hard time seeing them coming with this more affordable EV. But Tesla can, and can make it with a huge profit. So that factory, if that can produce 3 million vehicles a year, they can both send that to South America suddenly and start the EV revolution down there, and they can send them to US, and they will still get the tax credit on this very affordable EV, because it's made in North America. And they can build the batteries for this car in America, where they also get the incentive on the batteries and send them down to Mexico. They're really close in Texas, right? So there's a lot of things going right for that factory right there, and they could send them over to Europe, where these small hatchback are very popular. And we kind of see in China that they have kind of done the reverse thing of the Western world, where we are making the the most expensive car first, and then we're going to drop down in small cars. But the small cars are very popular in China. So many have started with this small Wuling Mini EV people probably have heard about. But they're coming out with a lot of small EVs. So I think they're going to have a say in the market as well. But I think the big losers in the smaller segment is going to be the old guys, as they don't have this mass market and they don't have a car ready for it, because they are still like Ford. They're losing $22,000 per vehicle. Tesla can make a car for that and still earn money on it for what Ford is losing on every EV they sell. So they are far from anywhere near where they can come out with a $25,000 car. I know GM has the Bolt that's very cheap, but they lose money on it. So it doesn't really matter if you have a car $25,000. If you're not earning money on it, it's not sustainable. You have to stop that at some point. But so this is really the big difference what Tesla is doing here, because Volkswagen has been out saying they're coming out with the ID.2 in 2025 as well. Still going to be on the MEB platform they have right now. And Herbert Diess, former CEO, did say a couple of years back that they will not be able to come out with an affordable EV before the Trinity platform and be profitable. And now they're going to come out with the affordable EV, but on their already existing platform. So I don't think they're going to, if they're going to earn any money, it's going to be very, very small. So I don't think they're going to want to scale it up to millions of EVs because they're probably going to lose money on it, where Tesla is going to come out with a small compact car that probably can earn, if it's sell for $25,000, I expect they earn 20% on that car. That is unheard of, even in the ICE industry, a small compact car. They don't earn a lot of money on that. That's why Ford is stopping the Ford Fiesta and all the small cars here in Europe, because it doesn't make them any money. They want to focus on the big, heavy SUV and MPVs and so on. So they're dropping all the small cars, and now Tesla is going to come in and make the car that people want.
That's very interesting what you just said.
Yeah.
Wow. A couple of things before we wrap this up. I know I see a book behind you, the Elon Musk mission, so you actually co-authored with Randy Kirk and a couple of other people. How is that going? And if you don't mind giving our audience a very brief synopsis on the book, and your views on the book.
Yeah. This book up here. Randy Kirk contacted me and asked if I want to help write a book about Elon Musk and all his companies. And in very shortly, it's trying to explain Elon Musk companies to the world. Try to explain all of this with the manufacturing method and how they're doing things and how they're innovating, the pace of innovation, the agile culture at Tesla, and how it's a flat culture, and all of these things. Trying to explain to the world what Elon's companies are doing. And because I think this is also why I started my channel, is to try to explain EVs and also renewable energy, but also try to explain why I think Tesla is going to be a once-in-a-century company. I think we're going to have a company that we have never seen before in terms of Tesla. And not just because they're a car company, but because they're also going into AI and robotics and so on. I think that's where in the long term, and why I'm saying I'm a long investor, like from now to 2030, it's the car business, it's the energy business, it's the charging business, and so on. But beyond that, I think the real game changer is going to be robot and AI. And that is all what we're trying to explain, our thesis of why we think Tesla could be one of the biggest company the world has ever seen, and why Elon Musk will be probably the first trillionaire we ever see. So that's why we wrote this book, to try to explain to the world what Elon's doing here.
And then people can buy this book on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, it's like an ebook or paperback or hard book or audiobook on Audible. So yeah, whatever.
So we'll put all that information in the description. Last thing, for this podcast, I want to talk about the earnings call. So before I discuss the report that came out and the earnings call that happened yesterday, I had my EPS at 0.89, which I even tweeted to Randy, and I had my gross margin at 20.3. What numbers did you had in mind before the earnings call, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I actually don't do the EPS numbers. I try to predict the production numbers because that's what my interest lay at, because I don't really care
What
about
was
the
your production
EPS.
number for Q1 22? Do you remember?
433.
Okay, and they were at like 4
423. So I was like
423. Okay.
10,000 off. Yeah.
Okay.
So not bad. But yeah, I think many people are going to be disappointed about this quarter because we are used to Tesla just having many hundreds or many plus in percentage in gains. They did grow their revenue by 24% and total revenue, and the automotive business with 18% in revenue. So it's not a bad quarter. They still grew. And I think that's what people have to keep. We have to put it into context of the world right now, that people are maybe in a recession. They have to cut cost to make people want to buy their cars and so on. But most other automakers are down. They're down in sales. And we also see even Volkswagen in China, with the fastest growing EV market on the planet, they were down 4% in their EV business. So this is really, really bad in a market that grew 24%. So I think what Tesla is doing is quite amazing. They only have premium cars, but one of their premium cars is one of the best-selling cars in the world right now. But they have to cut prices to do it. But for me, the most important thing to show the world was that their automotive gross margin is still above 20%, even though
It actually came down at 19.3.
That was a total revenue, right? Total automotive.
No, it said that the total gross margin stood at 19.3, whereas the expectations from the analyst was close to 22%. So they missed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they actually missed it. So anything that was north of 20% would be a rally. So,
yeah,
doing this right now, Tesla stock is actually down 10% right now.
yeah.
I mean, it's being slaughtered completely right now on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Because two of the things that make sense to the investors is the gross margin as the earnings per share.
Yeah.
Now, the earnings per share, they were at 85 cents and the analyst predicted 86 cents. So that was a slight, they miss it. But where they lost the most and where they are being punished today by the investors is the gross margins. 19.3. I personally feel people, especially investors, retail investors, the Wall Street, they have very high benchmark for Tesla. And the reason I say that is I feel it is Elon's fault being juvenile when he says that we will produce 50%, our PE ratio will be 50% year-over-year basis. So I think when you set that benchmark, being the CEO so high, and then you come in at 34% or 37%, it will backfire. Do you agree? What do you think?
Yeah, I think with the 50%, we have to take into context that is compound annual growth rate from 2020. So they're still on target. They're still above target. So some quarters are going to be down, some years are going to be down, but some years are going to be up. So 2021 was way above 50%. 2022 was just below 50%. And now we have one quarter with 35%, and people are like, oh, that's not 50%, but that's not what Elon has said. They have all said, and they even showed it in their earnings sheet in last quarter, trying to explain to people it is compound annual growth rate from 2020's number. They took this target in 2021 and said, this is what we're aiming for. So people are misunderstanding what they're saying. So they are ahead of target. They are actually at, I think, over 60% compound annual growth rate before this Q1 anyway, on year-over-year basis. So they are hitting their target. People are just misunderstanding. It's not every quarter that has to be 50%. They have never said it's going to be like that. And
but see, that's how it is perceived.
Exactly.
By the investor. That's a big problem,
If they're growing and they're earning billions of dollars and they still have $22 billion in the bank, and I really can't see this as a bad thing. Because as a long-term investor, I don't really care about the ups and downs in every quarter. I just see in the long perspective. And right now, they're doing price cuts, and everybody was screaming about, oh, this is going to devastate Tesla's gross margin. But they still have industry-leading margins. Nobody else on the planet has the margins that Tesla has right now, even with the price cut. And people say, this is a bad thing. Oh, they only have 20%.
I wish the big investors, the big banks, the Wall Street can actually see the things that people like yourself, myself, and others see, because they don't. For them, it's all about margins, margin. And actually, Tesla and Elon Musk has taken a lot of criticism. I don't know how it is in Europe. You can speak on that as well. In US, they have taken a big criticism. And one of the main criticism they are getting, if you go on Twitter, is Tesla should advertise. They should advertise. Now, do you support that notion, or and how is it in Europe? Do you guys also think the way we think, or I'm very curious to kind of understand the perception from your end.
Yeah, I don't see people think like Elon is a crazy guy, but I think people can also see through the noise because we're not. I think in America you're much more living in this situation where we're kind of looking at it from afar and looking at it and saying, yeah, they're doing crazy stuff, but I can still buy the car cheaper than anything else, and it's the best-selling car in Europe. So I think the European is not like, oh, the sales are demand is down. It's the best-selling car in the goddamn continent. There's not a demand problem in Europe anyway. And it's the best-selling passenger car, except pickup trucks in the US as well in Q1. So I don't really see this narrative playing out that there's the brand is so hurt or blah 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 like that. I think the product will always win, and Tesla has the best product.
I love that. Anything else, Lars, that you would like to tell us more about? Also, I would encourage our audience to actually check out your YouTube channel, BestInTESLA, guys. Definitely go subscribe. Let's support Lars and his mission. Lars, the mic is all yours. Anything else you would like to add to this?
Just want to say thanks for having me on, Sid. It's been an absolute pleasure. Always happy to talk about the EV revolution that is coming faster than people think.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lars. I know you're a busy guy, and I want to thank you very much for being our guest and taking the time. And we wish you all the very best. And we will continue to check your YouTube channel and continue to watch your videos. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.